Right, what is the point of the ACCA SBL exam? Of course, it's an exam you need to pass to qualify. It's a compulsory subject. You need to do this to pass. But why did the ACCA introduce this? It's not always been here. So what's the point? Ben, over to you.
Yeah, it hasn't been around that long. It's still relatively new for ACCA, for them to have this case study endpoint assessment type exam. And it really exists to make sure that when you are getting the ACCA qualification, when you get those magical letters after your name that are going to open so many career doors for you, they want to check that you are a sensible, practical person who can give, who has commercial acumen, who can give decent advice, who isn't too narrow. They want to check that you have a wider range of skills. And that you're not just a numbers person. And how I'd really describe it is it's a bit like having a job interview. That's what the SBL exam is like. An interview for you to be getting those magical ACCA letters after your name.
When was the last time you had a job interview, Ben? I can't remember the last time you would have done that.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been doing this, sort of working for myself for quite a while. My last proper job interview was, I think, probably when I joined Kaplan. But even that wasn't a proper interview because I'd already, the tutor basically just offered me a job. It was when I joined KPMG, my first proper graduate job. And it was horrible. I can remember being asked really nasty questions by the audit partner at KPMG. He asked me, how many suitcases are there at the moment flying over London?
Really? Well,
yeah. And I was like,
well,
and he just wanted to see how I'd think about it. Didn't care what the answer was. How would I work out how many aeroplanes there were over London and how many items of luggage might be on each one? And yeah, I'm coming out in a slight sweat thinking about it, actually, because but obviously I got the job, so I can't have given that bad an answer.
Well, luckily, I know you said SBL was a bit like a job interview. Luckily, there aren't any SBL questions quite as complicated as that. Or quite
they're not going to ask you that.
Abstract,
but what I mean, it's like a job interview, is that you can pre-prepare for a job interview.
Yeah.
And research the company, that sort of stuff. And that you can do for SBL using the pre-scene document. They release that pre-scene 2 weeks before the exam. So that's your chance to pre-prepare and get ready. But then on the day of the job interview, they'll ask you some things you might be expecting, like, tell me about a time you worked as part of a team, Andrew. But they'll also ask you some unexpected things that are testing your ability to think on your feet a little bit and see how you cope. And see if you can sort of think sensibly under a little bit of pressure. And that's what they'll try and do in the exam. Some things you'll be slightly expecting, and some things you really, really won't. And it's a test of how well you can cope with that.
And I guess having pre-prepared answers, like in a job interview, isn't going to help if they ask you something that's a bit unexpected. If they say, give an example of a time where you had to show leadership and you said, this company was founded in 1943 by two brothers. That's not gonna help, is it?
You've proved you've memorized their website or whatever, but you've not proved you can answer the question.
No. So a lot of it is about reacting to the situation, isn't it? And being able to think on your feet. Yeah,
massively. And that's a really key skill for this exam, is that you have to be able to react to the question that you're given and the scenario information you're given. Now, there was a recent SBL exam where students were asked, they were given a job description in the exam for a senior role at the company. So they were given some details in that job description and then were asked to critically evaluate that job description. And I mean, there's nothing really you could have pre-learned for it. You were told about the job in the exam. So this was a role. The whole thing was having to think on your feet. It was, you were told about that role. And then the details that were in the job description were all bespoke, all tailored to that particular exam and that scenario. Some of them were really good things. Some of them were poor and some things were missing entirely. Some things shouldn't have been in there. There was a real range of problems with that job description, but you couldn't pre-learn anything for it, really.
So yeah, having that knowledge of the textbook or whatever is not going to help in that situation, is it? It's about that reaction. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're testing that skill. Can you react?
Yeah, great. And how does SBL link with people's careers later down the line? Because it feels like this is sort of a little bit of a segue between those really technical numbers papers that students have done and then the real world, isn't it? SBL feels like a little bit of a bridge between those two things. Is
Oh,
that something you found?
massively. I know when I was doing my accounting qualification, I wanted to develop skills that would help me to run my own business one day.
Mm.
I knew that was always my goal.
Yeah.
And I've ended up doing that. And the skills that I learned when I was doing my qualification in these more strategy type papers,
Yeah.
they've really, really helped me.
Yeah.
You know, Andrew, and we talk about things like what prices should we charge for our courses.
Yeah.
And actually having a bit of understanding of business strategy helps you to make a more informed decision about what an appropriate price strategy is, or how to market your courses and this sort of stuff. So what you're developing here when you are studying this sort of business strategy type case study exam is you're developing wider business skills that are going to help you if you start your own business, or they're going to help you as you move up the career ladder within a larger organization. And when you move up, most jobs start technical at the lower level. So if you're an auditor, for example, you start off doing lots of, nuts and bolts type work, technical stuff. Then it becomes about people management as you move up into a management role. And then as you move further up, it really becomes about sales and strategy, where we're going to take this organization. And what this exam is trying to do, having a strategic business strategy type paper, a case study paper like this, is to prepare you for those higher level skills that you'll need later in your career. About where do you take a business? How do you oversee and manage people? How do you sell? A lot of that sort of stuff is the things that are included in SBL. The technical stuff that you probably need earlier and lower in your career, and the things that AI is probably going to take over the world on, those things are what you've already learned in your earlier ACCA exams, I would say.
I guess the clue's in the name, isn't it? A strategic business leader. You are a business leader. So that's where we're looking.
Absolutely.
This is about doing this. And this stuff, I mean, we both love this stuff, don't we? Because it's so relatable to the real world. And there's so many, like every time I look at a news story, we're thinking, what's the point of SBL? Well, SBL is all around you. You could go on any news website right now, and we could talk about it from an SBL perspective, from a business perspective. And so it's interesting, it's relatable. And then it really helps people in their careers. Again, similar to you, like setting up a business. I'm thinking about marketing strategies. I'm thinking about expansion strategies. I'm doing all this SBL stuff.
What's your competition?
Competition.
What's your point of difference? What makes you different as a tutor, Andrew, versus why would someone come to you rather than somewhere else? You've got to consider these things so you can lean into those advantages.
Yeah. So it's brilliant. Like I'd say it's the most relatable to the real business world out of all the subjects, compared to something really technical about, I love a whack as much as the next person, but very rarely have I used a whack in my business on a day-to-day basis. But thinking about marketing strategies,
you're talking about weighted average cost of capital rather than
I'm thinking about WACC, rather than sometimes I need one of those as well. But no, it's great. I mean, from that perspective, it's a great
and actually, for us as tutors, because it is so practical and relatable, it's really fun to teach.
It is,
because the examples and the things to bring it to life just come naturally. One of the bits of feedback I get from a lot of my audit students, because that's my technical exam I teach. A lot of feedback I get is Ben really brings it to life and makes it interesting. I have to work very, very hard to make audit interesting.
You deserve a knighthood for that.
But you don't have to work very hard to make SBL interesting, because it is a fascinating subject to start off with.
It is. Yeah, great. So there we go. That's the point of SBL. So that's why this exists. Again, see this not just as an exam to qualify, but this is honestly going to really develop your skills, and it is going to be useful in your later career. It'll help with whether you're employed or whether you're setting up your own business. SBL is great. So once you change that mindset and make this is fun, this is interesting, this is useful, this will be a whole lot easier for you. So make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you look out for more videos like this. Ben and I are going to be talking through so many bits around SBL, giving you tips, giving you insights as to how to pass this exam. So make sure you subscribe and give this video a like, and that will really help us out. Thanks for watching.